Welcome back to this episode of the Added Time podcast with myself and my co-presenter, Tony Grant, the former Everton, Manchester City and Burnley midfielder. And Tony, this week we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to look at the World Cup draw in particular. And, you know, did you watch the actual draw itself? I mean, we had the village people, and up in the stands it was Donald Trump, you know, the sort of the free world's biggest leader, you know, dancing to YMCA. I mean, what are we expecting next summer in America?
Well, I think it's going to be. I think in America, I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do.
Let's not forget Canada and Mexico as well. But
yeah, I know, and I think all of them will bring something new. I think it'll be entertaining. I remember the last World Cup, which was held mainly in America, which I thought was a brilliant World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Donald Trump dancing to YMCA. I mean, it's actually quite funny, isn't it? Let's have it right. You know, it's good fun. So I think a lot of fans will be dancing to the YMCA after game. It could be like a national anthem for a lot of teams when they win.
Yeah. So Italy had, you know, what was his name, Pavarotti, you know, singing Nessun Dorma, and we'll have Donald Trump doing YMCA. But looking at the actual competition, I mean, looking at the draw first, you know, England, they're talking about they avoided the group of death and all the rest of it. When you look at the groups, I you know, the fact that 3 qualified from most groups, I think, you know, sort of for me takes a little bit of that jeopardy out of it, you know, and you know, you look at it and think, you know, if England can't get through that group, Croatia are not the Croatia that we used to know. You know, Panama, you know, and Ghana again. I don't think they're in the best form of their lives, you know, but you know, the World Cup is different, isn't it? As Senegal, you know, as Morocco, as Tunisia, all these teams have shown over the last number of tournaments.
Yeah,
very different.
Well, even Saudi Arabia,
last
World Cup got an amazing results. So it is different. The weather's a big factor, Al. You know, you got to get acclimatized to the time. You know, you talk a lot of our players play in the Premier League, so if these are the teams who we don't know nothing of, such as Panama, there's a good chance that they'll have 1 or 2 players who will watch the game and go, "Oh, he's a good player, isn't he?" Yeah. You know, because we don't see them, but there'll be some who are extremely quick, or some who got a little bit of skill, but we are expected to go and beat them regardless, because for years in the World Cups, all the big nations come up against these types of nations, and most of the time we do overcome it and go through. I do think all the big nations should go through to the next stage, because sometimes it's tough. You know, 3 games you've got, you might only just start feeling your feet.
Yeah.
You could be a top nation with the best players, but you struggled in the first game or 2. But we still want to see you in the tournament, because we know you're going to come good. So I quite welcome the first round with the I think it's the 8 best placed third teams. Now, if you finish 4th, of course you go home, but I'd imagine all the big nations will be through them.
Yeah. But when you look at the big nations, it's looking a little bit different this time, isn't it? Because you look at the form teams of France, you know, England. But you're not looking at Germany as a form team. You're not looking at Brazil. They've not had a great qualifying campaign, you know. So it could be interesting, couldn't it? I mean, where does it stand, do you think, from an England point of view? And there's a lot of discussion, isn't there, about who's going to go? Will Jude Bellingham start? You know, will Cole Palmer go? You know, will he start? You know, there's all kind of Phil Foden. What does he do? You know, where do you rate England's chances? Where do you put them?
I think, you know, the group stages we've just gone through.
Qualifiers, yeah.
Qualifiers, you know, and Jude's being left out. You know, Jude's one of our best players. Same as Phil Foden's one of our best players. And it's okay when you're playing some of the nations we're playing in the qualifiers, because you'll still win. We could probably call on players who haven't been picked this year and will still win that league. But when you go into the World Cup, when you get into the knockout stages, that's when you need your big players. So I just don't hope the manager hasn't sort of not cut his nose off to prove a point, but has missed a trick, because it's not so much about these games. The big competition is when you get through to the last 16, the last 8. That's when you're big player, and you need your big players then. And, we were talking about Liverpool when we were with Salah before. You do need your big players. Some of these other games, you can sort of paper over the cracks. But we'll have more conversations leading up to it, won't we, on the players who are going and who's not going. But I think you mentioned there about Germany and your Spains of the world, and these big nations will come alive, Al.
Yeah,
they'll just come alive because they have got great players. So once they get it rolling, and they're in the World Cup and all the eyes are on them, and it's going to be a fantastic World Cup. Commercially, it's going to be something you've never seen, really.
It'll probably be the best, won't it?
Probably.
So far, because of where it is, and and I think what Mexico will bring, I think, is the passion.
Yeah.
As America will bring the glamour and the glitz and the commercialization, as you say. But Mexico are real football fans, aren't they? And and Canada again, it'll be, you've got some great places to go to. Like England will be playing in Toronto, I think, as part of their group, qualifying group. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be. But from a player's point of view, going into this now, I'm looking at the Premier League now, and in particular, and what are you thinking now as a player? Who's maybe. Does your transfer window maybe change in January because of the World Cup?
Looking at the season.
Yeah,
beyond. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I don't know, Al.
So if you're not what I'm saying is, if you're getting in your team at the moment, whoever that may be, and you're looking at wanting to be in because we still don't know. Scotland are definitely there, England are definitely there, and we could have all 3 other nations. Northern Ireland job looks tough, but Scotland, Wales and the Republic of Ireland are very much still in the mix. So you're looking at players who maybe are not getting into their club teams at the moment, and looking at January and thinking, hang on a minute, I need to move and start playing. Is that
I don't
consideration?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the World Cup is the icing on the top for a player, isn't it? If you get the opportunity to go and play in a World Cup, how brilliant is that for you and your family? But your club football is your bread and butter. You can't take your eye off that, and who's to say you leave a club and then you go to another club and you're going to start there? We've seen many of players who managers have got it wrong, haven't they? And didn't realise he was what he was when he come through the doors. So I don't think any of that'll happen. I remember the last World Cup where it was so hot. I remember a couple of players got big moves in England on the back of a World Cup. Now that's a different sort of conversation. Is how far do you take the performances in the World Cup to go and buy players? Is that a realistic one? Yeah, because they're playing in the heat. Yeah. The game's quite slower. Yeah. You come into we're only talking about the Premier League. You come into the Premier League and it's it's freezing for 7 or 8 months of the season. And it's not slow. It's fast. Yeah. So recruitment on the back of a World Cup is an interesting topic.
Yeah, I always remember. I think it wasn't a World Cup; it was a Euros. But Karol Poborski, of the Czech Republic, and he had the fantastic competition here, wasn't it, in England, and I think got his move to Manchester United because of that. So there's always 1 or 2 players who come through the World Cup, and they think, who's this guy? You know what I mean? And I always remember those conversations when you're watching the World Cup games. We need to go out and get him, and we wouldn't know him from Adam, you know what I mean? So it is an interesting one, but it's certainly something. I think what I'm trying to get at is the World Cup plays on people's minds, on players' minds at this time, as far as their league form as well.
Yeah, but so let's use an example. Let's just throw out Jude Bellingham, or Phil Foden. Yeah, let's just say he's not getting a game at Man City. He ain't leaving, is he? No. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to. Not many teams can afford him. Yeah. And Pep wouldn't want to lose him.
They want to sell him, yeah.
So, the players who might be thinking that probably wouldn't be of that elite level. No. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. As far as you mentioned it there about the pinnacle of a footballer's career, if you've got a Champions League medal and a league medal, Premier League medal, let's say, Are you giving both of those up to have a World Cup winners medal?
I'd probably say no. I think, but it's a really hard question, Al. You know what I mean? I mean, the World Cup is fantastic, and I'd imagine when you're there, it's even bigger and better, especially if you've got a team who's rolling along and winning games. But you roll back to winning the Champions League with your teammates who you're with all season, and the families you're with all year, and the fans you're with all year. I don't think you can ever give up anything domestic. I don't think you can ever give it up domestic. But I think the elite players want a lot, don't they? You know, your Messis, your Ronaldos, your Salahs. I think they want a lot, don't they? And rightly so. You know, you keep striving, but I don't think you can give a domestic big trophy up for that. Maybe in the modern game you might give the Carling Cup up, which used to be the League Cup, so you shouldn't even give that up really. But
I think most of us are going to give that up, aren't we? Even I'd give that up if I had it. but as a player, so you were a Champions League winner, you were a Premier League winner, you wouldn't give those two medals.
If you'd offered me the choice before I've won anything to say, you're going to play for this team here and you're going to win the Champions League with this team and with all them fans, or you can go and win it with your nation abroad, I think I'd choose me home team.
Would you?
You're playing 38 games in front of your fan base, whatever fan base that is, and it's home and away, and that's And
the World Cup's talked about once every 4 years. Isn't it, really?
If you give me the choice, Al. I mean, you're being quite mean here, aren't you? Giving me only one choice.
Well, nothing's easy on the other time.
So I think I'd go domestic for a league title, FA Cup or Champions League.
Oh, that's fair enough. Now, listen, we're going to move away from the World Cup because a couple of weeks ago now, I went and did an event at a pub called the Winslow Pub. A lot of people won't know it who may be listening, but a lot of people will. And it's the pub which was right opposite Goodison Park, Everton's former ground, and of course now is the Everton Women's Stadium. But it's happened to close down because of just financial reasons, and and I don't think it'll be the first business that is affected by Everton moving stadiums, and it's sad in that respect. But we did an event. It was with the Swedish Everton fan group, and it was pretty much the last event that was. They are going to do a farewell event, but just the history, and it's a place where I'm sure you've been in there many a times, and the guy who runs it, Dave Bond, was telling me about the fact that Dixie Dean used to drink in there, and Alan Stubbs, and you'll hear it in a moment because we're going to run a little package on it. He said it was actually the Players' Lounge back in the day, in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, these are fantastic institutions, these, aren't they? And every ground has one.
Me sister Al lives in Winslow Street.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she still lives there now. Yeah. So she moved in there when I was around about 13, 14. So I'd have many a time walking from where I live straight up to me sister's to either go to match or just to go and see my sister. So the Winslow, I'm walking past the Winslow quite often ever since I've been a young lad, and it's the community. It was the community pub, wasn't it? Yeah. And other things it offered us, meeting people, gathering, talking to each other, laughing, crying, all that, and it was part of Everton. And what Stubbsy was saying is, before our time, a lot of the players used it as
the match was finished.
Yeah, over. But even in our time, a lot of my mates would have drank in there.
Yeah,
and after the game, I remember being 18, 19, 20, coming out and going in there for a quick drink before you went down to County Road.
Yeah,
and it is quite sad. As good as our new stadium, Everton's new stadium is, Bramley-Moore, which is fantastic. A little bit of Israeli, you cry inside a little bit because of all the memories you have around Goodison Park, and the Winslow is right in the middle of the lot of it.
Well, when you looked around on the night and you see all the memorabilia up around, you see some of the faces. Kevin Campbell was quite poignant for me, and he would go over there often and have drinks with them, and someone was telling us about when Duncan Ferguson, when he became temporary manager, and he put money behind the bar for fans, and it's sad, but it's inevitable, isn't it? I guess when a football club moves, that there are going to be casualties like that.
There is, how do you fix that? I mean, it's very hard, to be fair to Everton. what they have done. They've kept the stadium alive, which is great with the girls using it. So okay, it's not getting used the way it was, and places like the Winslow are going to have really suffered from it. But time moves on, and Everton have had to move because of the nature of the world is and the business. But it's still going. You know, I drive past it quite often.
Yeah.
There's still a bit of life around there, and the women are going to utilise it. And hopefully it's still going for many more years to go on.
Well, if you want to watch that event that I was talking about with the Swedish footballers, we're going to play it now. And we hear from Alan Stubbs, former player, and also Dave Bond, who's the manager at the Winslow. Well, I mean, this place it's iconic, isn't it? We saw the end of Goodison at the end of last season. I mean, when this place goes, it'll be just as emotional.
Well, it will. I think what you're seeing and all is the knock-on effect of obviously from Goodison in terms of the surrounding businesses and the people that are here. You know, obviously the Winslow is iconic with everything, Everton really. You know, this has been a base for Everton fans for well, as long as I've lived, you know, and obviously before. So, you know, this was the original meet point. You know, if you were looking to go to Goodison and you say, where do you want to meet? Meet outside the Winslow.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything about it.
Yeah. It was like for Lost and Found as well, wasn't it?
It was. It was. If you'd lost someone, they would be here. And you'd more or less, if you were looking anywhere else, they'd be found in here. Yeah. So yeah, listen, it is. It's obviously sad to see, but you know, I think it's a sign of the times as well. You know, when something as big as the football club has been in the community, when it does move, the community gets affected, and I think this is obviously one of the this is the impact of that. If you could move it closer to the ground, I'm sure they would do, but unfortunately, it's not as easy as that.
And when you think about some of the players that have been here after the games, I mean, there's talk like in the 70s and 80s, players would come straight after the match and drink with the fans. I mean, the history here is incredible.
Well, this was the Players' Lounge. You know, obviously, you know, when I was at Everton, we had the Players' Lounge inside. But before that, this realistically was the Players' Lounge. You know, they'd come across and they'd obviously be drinking in here with the fans. It's different now. I don't think the fans have that closeness with players now, and that's not necessarily me saying a bad thing. I think it's just the way the game's gone. You know, it's harder to get closer to the players now, especially from a fan point of view.
Do you think they'd ever replicate something like this at the new stadium? I mean, there's bars popping up everywhere, isn't there? You know,
yeah, I think the atmosphere around the new stadium, around the Hill Dickinson, I think it's getting better and better as the weeks and months go by. You know, you got to remember it's still very new. You know, and I think there's obviously lots of places popping up. I think there's more places in the pipeline as well that are waiting on the go ahead. So yeah, you know, I think our new stadium, we have to create that now as our own area, because it is from what it was, even with the new stadium and the business around it, it's come a long way. But I still think it's got so much more potential to go even further.
You'll miss this place, won't you?
Yeah, you will. You will. You look around the room and you just see so many iconic figures on the wall that have graced not just here, but the amazing stadium behind me. You know, this for me will always be amazing. You know,
coming back tonight, it's like emotional again.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't been here for a few months. You know,
it'll never be forgotten. Yeah. But we've obviously gone from a vintage car to a brand new Ferrari. That's what it feels like, you know. But we all love the vintage car as well.
And the garage is going as well.
The garage is going, yeah. The garage is going. We need a few new parts.
Thanks, Al.
Pleasure.
Per Malmqvist Stolt, a Swedish name. It's quite hard to pronounce if you're Englishman. But I'm the chairman of the Swedish Toffees.
Okay. And you're here tonight at the Winslow, and what could be one of the last ever events at the Winslow. I mean, how special is that for you?
It's a big occasion, and they said to me today that this is the last event. at the Winslow. So we're going to tell everybody when we start that this is the very last event at Winslow. Everyone in here, not all everyone, but many of us have been here for years. I've been here for 14 years, 1 to 3 times a year. And the Swedish Toffees tour that we have now, we have had since 2008.
Wow. What does it mean to you, this pub, when you come over? Does it give you a sense of home?
Yeah, it's a sense of home. Everything here is a sense of home. I think when you come here, you go Spellow Lane, Goodison Road. I always walk the same way when I come here. And you feel the atmosphere, you feel the smell. Everything is a sense of home. And you have the Winslow. So it's like a ritual. For me, it's like Christmas. I need to go here a few times a year just to live this one.
And last season, we had the end of Goodison in a sense for the first team, and the end of the Winslow would probably be just as emotional, won't it? Really, when you think of the history that in this pub.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is probably because this is so much in the walls. Everything is in the walls, and when you come here, you feel the tradition, the history, and the people who work here. They know everything about players who goes here before the games and things like that. It's huge, massive history.
Yeah, and you're over here with the Swedish fan group. You have a great time.
Yeah,
there's around 100 of you, I think, and I mean, it must be a special trip for you. That.
Yeah, it is, and we do this once a year. We come from every different part of Sweden. We have different jobs. We are different in so many ways, but we are all Evertonians, and we meet here once a year. And it's occasion. We not only talk about football, we talk about everything in life. It's the thing. Many of these people I have met, I have known for 14, 15 years. So it's very much a thing with friends.
And finally, there's been so many links with the Swedish footballers and Everton. When you look at Anders Limpar, is probably the most famous. Jesper Blomqvist, Nicholas Alexandersson, Tobias Linderoth. I mean, I heard the other week that Tobias's dad who runs the car park at the new champions Mayalby. So great. I mean, there's a lot of links, isn't there, between Sweden and Everton?
Yeah, it is. And the link started when we watched English football. 1969, they started a program in Sweden called Tips Extra. So we had live English football. You hadn't live English football at that time. So in the 70s and 80s, we had live English football. They didn't send live Swedish football, but English. So many Swedes from them took the English teams to their hearts, and then they have given it to the children and the ones. And Anders Limpar is actually he have been us 3-4 times during the year. So Anders is one of the ones who always follow us.
Well, Dave, first of all, I mean, it's devastating news that the Winslow might be coming to an end. I mean, what's your feelings around that?
Well, I'd say it's more than might. I think it is coming to an end, unless there's a white rabbit somewhere in a hat. No, it's 104. Actually, so 2026 will be 140 years because it was opened in 1886. So we're going to try and do a farewell party next year, at the beginning of next year, 2026, just to give it that significance of 140. You know.
Has it sunk in yet?
Look, I thought the day was going to come anyway. I really did. But as we spoke before about putting the coaches on and all that, and thought we might knock a season out of it or even 6 months, but it just fell off the edge of a cliff immediately in August. So it's been an uphill battle ever since, just trying to put fires out literally everywhere you go. You know what I mean? And the money's not coming in. We can't keep it going. You know. Thankfully, we got a little bit of a bumper tonight with the Swedish lads coming over, which is great.
When you look at this place, it's hard to pinpoint the history of it, isn't it, really? And to say, oh, this happened and that happened.
Yeah.
Because everything's happened here, isn't it? From play, I mean, Dixie Dean ran it, didn't he, for some time?
No, Dixie was his local.
Yeah.
I believe after he retired, that's why his picture, the image of him is outside on the main sign. But the two ex-players who were landlords here for quite a long time were Norman Greenhaw and James Bortwick. And James Bortwick's family had it for like 40 years or something like that, because his son and grandson had it as well.
Right. But I mean, when you think about the players that have been in here,
I mean, upstairs, Brian LeBone was a regular here, Dave Hickson. You know, I mean, the list goes on. The lads that come in, like, I mean, all the lads from the 80s, they've all been in, you know.
And so some of them used to come over, like, straight after the game, didn't they?
Back in the day, yeah. Back in the day, I believe so. Yeah, before my time. But it's, I've always said it's like an annex to the stadium, isn't it? It's like part of Everton's DNA. It's been part of how many generations of families, which is part of their match day ritual, is to come to the Windsor before we go to Goodison.
What was it like running it, and sort of, making sure it was what people expected, when they came?
Yeah. Well, considering
that responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, me being an Evertonian since childhood helps obviously tremendously, because you have that passion, don't you? And I've been in the pub game for a long time, 1987. I'm quite a little bit of a perfectionist with do things, you do it right or you don't do it at all. So when this opportunity arrived on my doorstep, I was up for the challenge to make this a proper Everton pub. And I believe I've done that, or we've done that with the team. Obviously I didn't do it on my own. But it's been a great journey. I've enjoyed every bit of it. It's just had its stresses. But the adrenaline rush from a match day here was always something that got me going for a couple of weeks afterwards, you know what I mean? So
and it's seen such great history, both from a winning sides in 1980s and before that, and of course, we saw all those great scenes, when when the relegation problems were here, and then also the last game of Goodison.
Yeah,
I mean, this place was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah. So like what you just alluded to there, the last 3 years or more that we've been touch and go with relegation, and the fans greeting the coaches outside, the blue smoke, and just the added atmosphere to the games. You had Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, and obviously the last game of the season against Southampton. It was just, there was no precedent for that. Kind of knew what to expect, but it superseded how busy I thought it was going to be. It was crazy. Yeah.
How do you cope on a match day? And I mean, when you get that, like those days we talked about then. I mean, how did you cope? I mean, the staff were great. I love this.
Well, they're brilliant staff, you know what I mean? I mean, you give them a bit of guidance and that's all you got to do, isn't it, really? You know what I mean? There's 2 bars, as you know, there's like 16, 17 bar staff on a match day, 4 or 5 glass collectors, a couple of doormen. It just runs well, but it's all about preparation. You have to prepare. There's no saying, fail to prepare. Or
prepare to fail.
Right. Fail, yeah. And I do a lot of prep here. And as I'm not the only one, but I do a lot of prep. And then opening it on the match day, everything is ready to go, And that's the most important thing. I think you're not chasing your tail then.
Who was your favourite player that came in here? I mean, people talk about Kevin Campbell in recent years.
Yeah.
Who was your favourite? Have you got one that you used to love coming through the door?
Well, I'll give you 2 angles to this. So, growing up in Ireland, when I started supporting Everton in 1976, and then another Kevin Sheedy, started playing for Ireland, and his family come from my neck of the woods back in West Clare. He became a really favourite of mine as a player, and then I got to know Kevin quite well, and he's a wonderful fellow. But when I got to know the other Kevin, I mean, I never think of Kevin Campbell as a footballer. I just think of him as a wonderful person, and that's what he was to me, just a brilliant man. And yeah.
And what would it be like closing those doors for the last time? I mean, can you imagine what it was?
Yeah, well, obviously I've been quite busy myself with other stuff, but it's hitting home now because Christmas is coming and we'll get that out of the way. But we will, like I say, we're going to have to, we just can't go out with a whimper. There's got to be a massive farewell party, which we're going to have start advertising pretty soon for sometime in January. I'm not sure where in the calendar it will be in January, but lots of people have spoken to me about it and offered, including yourself, and a few people from Everton and a couple of ex-players have said they'd give us a hand with whatever we need it. You know what I mean? So it's great to have that support. But I think so. It will be an all ticket type thing. So because you can't just put something like that on and then hope that people turn up. We have to sell tickets for it, and we're just going to go with like good live music, nice food, plenty of guests, and just say farewell. I mean, we've done farewell to Goodison. Well, this lady is 6 years older than Goodison, so she needs a good send off as well.
Yeah, you'll struggle to, you could probably sell it out twice, couldn't you? Let's be honest.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very hard to replicate this down with the new stadium, but I'm going to try because there is a venture I'm getting involved with down there, which will be open in the new year, January, probably more closer to February, I would imagine. So, I mean, I've always said, I've been like in many football stadiums, and I'm not just saying that because I run this place, but I've never seen a pub that would compare to this, a matchday pub, you know.
Just finally, is there one moment that sticks out with you in all the years you've been here? Is it the one moment that you think that was special, or that was, you know, took you? I mean, it's off the top of the head, I guess it's difficult, but there's been so many.
Well, I guess it's hard to beat the last game of the season, the farewell to Goodison. I think that tops everything, really. And that's what it should be, you know what I mean? Your final game of Goodison, and it tops everything else we had before. That's the one.
How did anyone even get to the place? Because I come down the street, and this little block was just...
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the aerial shots and that, and when I've said this before, when I arrived at 7:15, thinking, and everything was set up really to open the doors, but we couldn't open the doors at 7:15 actually. So we said we'd open at 8:30 and then serve at 9 a.m. Got an hour on the license, but there was queues both sides of the block. At 7:15 there was 50 people outside. By 7:30, 8:15, there was probably 200 or 300 people waiting to get in. It's crazy.
Well, David, on behalf of me, and I'm sure on behalf of all the fans that have been here, you know, we say thank you to you as well for everything you've done in here, because you have made it a special place.
Yeah, well, I'd like to take this moment to thank yourself and everyone else that's ever interviewed me for that, and obviously all the fans that came in here through the years, and since I've only been here since 2014, and obviously the wonderful staff that we have here. It's just been a great experience. Absolutely. Did you want me to?
You'll miss it, will you? Sorry.
Oh,
you'll miss it.
Yeah, very much so. But like I said earlier on about down by the new stadium, yeah. You not mention that, yeah?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, like I said earlier on about replicating the Winslow at the new stadium. Back in August, I was looking at. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, so I went along and got a dog first of all, which was a crazy thing to do, and then within 3 weeks, I'd be looking at taking a tenancy on a pub, which I have done, and then within a couple of weeks of that, we decided it all fell into place. I'm running a place on Dixon Street called Meraki, which is a rave bar, which this is how everything's happened by chance or by fate. So we know Frank Bird, right? Okay, so Frank's a scaffolder, roofer, builder, and the guys who were converting this warehouse / garage next to this rave bar called Meraki, they were in there working away, and the guys who had Meraki, this is going back July, August now, they said they had enough of the business. Would they like to lease it off them? I said, great, of course we will. So now they've leased Meraki and they've turned it into a match day venue, and it has the raves as well. So while they're renovating the place next door, they needed scaffolding. So Frank Bird turned up to do the survey. And he got talking to the two of the guys, to the owners, and they were telling him their plans and all that. And he said, "Wow, that's amazing, but do you have someone to run it?" And they said, "No." And he said, "I got you the man."
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
And that's how it happened. If it wasn't for Frank, and I have to go back to how I ended up here, was a guy I met in the train going to Nuremberg in 2007. And off chance, a guy friended and stayed friends with for an Irish lad to this day, but it would have been 7 years later, 2014 or 13, sorry, 6 years later, when he sent me a photograph of the outside of here, because it had been closed and it was under renovating, and Frank again had the scaffolding, and it was, I contacted Frank, and the rest is history. Yeah. So Frank Bird has a lot to do with the guy in the train.
He's got a lot to do with a lot of things, Frank.
Yeah, Frank's a great man. Yeah,
well, listen, Dave, thanks very much, and we'll look forward to having that party when it's ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, welcome back to the Added Time podcast with myself and Tony Grant, and we've been joined, and I'm glad to say, we've been missing you for the last few weeks, by Claire, our expert when it comes to predictions. She's been right up there, and in fairness, and Claire, we're going to start looking at these fixtures on Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll start with Newcastle against Chelsea, won't we?
Well, I think, there's a lot of games happening on Saturday, isn't it? It's the countdown to Christmas. There's going to be a lot of fans out and about wanting to get to these last few games. Tony, what are your thoughts? Newcastle at home?
Yes, I'm going to go with a resounding Newcastle to win I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah.
I think Newcastle are going to win 3-1, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an early game as well, isn't it? 12:30 kickoff, yeah. So interesting.
Go on, Al.
I'm going for a 2-2 draw in that one.
Okay, very good. Well, I think Newcastle at home might be a little bit dangerous.
Okay.
And the Geordies love a good game. I am
They got the
going.
crowd, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm going for a Newcastle win as well, and I'm going 2-0.
Okay.
Burnley. Well, Bournemouth 3:00 kickoff with Burnley. What do you think? Go on, Al.
Well, I think any time they play at the Vitality, I always fancy Bournemouth. I know, our team the other week went there and won. But I wouldn't rule Bournemouth out, certainly against Burnley. So I'm going. Sorry, Burnley fans, but I'm going 3-0 to Bournemouth.
yeah.
Yeah. on that
Okay, Al. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to go with a draw. I think Burnley are going to go up there, roll the sleeves up, and get something out the game, and come back home to Burnley with a point. So we're going to go with a 0-0.
Okay. I was going to go for a Bournemouth win. Sorry again.
It's okay.
1-0.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and this is a great game. I think Brighton and Hove Albion 3:00 kickoff against Sunderland.
Okay. Well, I've been saying it for a few weeks. I think Sunderland are too high for what I see.
Yeah. Dropping away, aren't they? They've had a couple of bad results.
Yeah. But going to Brighton, I think Brighton are going to have too much for them. And I'm going to say Brighton are going to win this game 3-0.
Okay. Again, I can't see anything but a Brighton win, but I'm just going to go 2-0. So Brighton against Sunderland. Yeah, I think Sunderland are sort of going to level off and probably finish top 10 somewhere. But yeah, so Brighton, and I'm going to. Did I say 2-0?
You did?
I did.
Yeah, and that's
Did I?
exactly what I was going to go with. The
Well,
telepathy
you
is
still
going.
can.
Still can, can't I?
Have you not?
I'm
Have you
not
not
doing
been
too
watching the way things have been going, and you're copying me?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a danger for you.
And then we've got a really big game, 3:00 kickoff, Man City against West Ham United.
Yeah. Well, I think.
This is at the Etihad.
Yeah, Christmas, around Christmas time, City at home, West Ham struggling. Can't see nothing but a City win. It's just how many goals they're going to score. I quite like giving City to swim by a lot of goals, don't I?
Feeling another 6-0 coming here.
I think, do you know what? I think it'll be 5.
5-0. 5-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, City always seem to let someone score, don't they?
I don't be following me, Al.
No, but it's
You give
true.
me stick normally.
It's true, yeah. Oh no, well I'm not. I mean, Claire, you go next on this one. Man City, West Ham. What you think?
I am going a Man City win, but maybe not as confident as what Tony is with his 5s and 6s. But I am going to go for a 3-0.
Well, you're going to laugh now. That's what I had in mind.
Oh yeah, look at this.
No,
Harry,
genuinely,
I'm made up. You two keep doing the same.
genuinely 3-0. Yeah, I'm going 3-0 for Man City. Yeah.
Okay. Then we're heading down south again. Wolverhampton Wanderers and Brentford FC at 3:00 kickoff.
Tough one, this.
Tough one, isn't it? When a Wolves, are they going to be that team who has the least amount of points in the Premier League?
Well, someone described them the others as possible the non-invincibles.
The non-invincibles.
Remember the invincibles who couldn't get. Well, they can't win. So I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one, but I'm struggling with this one. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I'm going to go for a Brentford 1-0 victory.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though it's at Molineux.
Yeah.
Or Moulinex, as my dad used to say. So I think Wolves win this game.
Okay, we've got to win sometime, I suppose.
Yeah,
haven't we?
and I
Or you
think
think so?
I think it's going to be 2-0 to Wolves.
Okay.
Think they can keep a clean sheet?
I think they can keep a clean sheet as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm going for a draw. I'm going 1-1. And that is just me throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I love it.
Got to go for it.
Spurs next.
Oh, yeah. Tottenham Hotspurs v Liverpool at 5:30.
Well, I've seen over the years, I've had something in my head for years that Tottenham are probably one of the worst teams to go to Anfield. Every time I watch Liverpool beat Tottenham.
But this is at Tottenham's ground, though.
Oh, yeah, because you got this the wrong way round here, haven't we?
Yeah.
Right, that's Tottenham's ground, so that just changes it.
Well done, Toe.
I thought we were at Liverpool there.
Yeah, we were trying to blag it there, but
Yeah. Okay, so now I've totally changed because I thought it was Tottenham going to
well,
Anfield.
this is it. Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree with you.
And they're normally abysmal, but Tottenham have got to go and give a right good show up there, haven't they? And get, they've got to go toe to toe. I think Tottenham will win the game. If it was at Anfield, honestly, I'm going with a comfortable.
No, I can see that.
It's amazing, that, isn't it? I was going with a comfortable Liverpool win.
Yeah.
Now I'm going with them getting beat because of where it is. I'm going to go with Tottenham to win 2-1.
Okay. Well, I'm going for a 1-1 draw on that one because I can see Liverpool getting something, and Tottenham can always get a goal, at the Tottenham Stadium. So yes, I'm going 1-1. Sadly
for me, I am going to go with a similar score to Liverpool and Leeds the other week. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Spurs win.
Wow.
Well, that's,
Will you be allowed in your house tonight?
I was going to say, fair play. Fair play to you for that. That's some
It's not what I want to say. Of course, you want to stick with your own side, but you've got to be honest. If that's where you think it's going to be, then you've got to say it. Okay.
Which, bearing in mind what you just said, it's Everton against Arsenal next.
Yeah.
Yeah, Everton are in great fettle though, and I think it's a good time for Everton to play a top team, especially at Bramley-Moore.
Yeah.
Arsenal obviously got all the guns and a fantastic team, and it's going to be tough for Everton. But I don't see Everton getting beat.
Okay.
So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Did you hear that?
Because he wants a copy.
Well,
he's going to do the exact same.
You said about that you have to be honest and you have to say, well, I'm going for a 1-0 win for Everton.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot predict Everton to get beat.
Yeah.
Even sometimes when I believe they will.
Well,
so I'm sorry about that. But
I don't understand that. So do you think they're going to win or get beat?
No, I think they're going to win 1-0.
Okay.
What you do? I don't know what you do when you're lying. But yeah.
I'm afraid I'm not being as optimistic.
No,
I would like for you to win, of course, but I don't think you're going to get the edge over Arsenal.
Well, if you're getting Liverpool losing, you're going to have to need Everton. You want Everton to win, don't you? But anyway,
no, I'm saying it's going to be an Arsenal win 2-1.
Okay. 2-1. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
And then the final game on Saturday night, 8 o'clock kickoff over at Ellen Road, Leeds United versus Crystal Palace.
Yes. Okay. And quickly, I'm going to go 8 o'clock game at Ellen Road. Yeah, brilliant. Leeds have got a little bit of resurgence, haven't they?
Yeah.
You're all going to copy me now, aren't you?
No, I'm.
Are you copying me already?
I'm already copying.
You're already copying me, aren't you?
Yeah, it's allowed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you know what, Al? Crystal Palace are going to beat them 2-1.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I certainly won't be copying you then.
I know.
Because I think Leeds United will win that game quite comfortably. And I'm going
comfortably?
Yeah, I'm going for 3-0.
Wow.
For Leeds. Because I just think Palace are hit and miss on the road, and, I think if it was at Selhurst Park, which it looks like on here, we could...
Stop it.
But if it's at Ellen Road, I as you say, under the lights, I can't see any other scoreline there, to be honest.
Well, I am going to go for a 3-1 win to Leeds.
So similar to me, but Crystal Palace getting a goal. And then there's one game on the Sunday, isn't it? Which is Aston Villa against Manchester United.
Yeah.
4:30 kickoff.
You know what? I think this could be a strong Villa performance. I really do. I think every time I watch Man U, I still don't see. No. I just can't see what to be pleased over, really.
It's not a surprise anymore when they get beaten.
No.
And that's a worry, isn't it, for United fans?
But you know what? The thing with Man U, they have got goal scorers in the team, haven't they? So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw.
Wow. Well, I'll let you go next, Claire.
Why? Why are you letting me go?
Just because.
Are you trying to copy my scores?
No, I'm a gentleman. Simple as that.
Okay. I am going to go for a Villa 2-1 win.
Okay.
I'm going for a Villa 2-1 win.
Wow.
See?
No, I'm not. I'm only joking. I'm going for 2-0.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for Villa.
Oh, yeah.
I think Villa win that one. Yeah, I think they're just a bit too strong, and they're really on form at the moment. So I can't see any other score. So there are predictions. If you agree or disagree, please make a comment. But now we're going to listen to an interview with the former Tranmere player and also chairman, and he was chairman of the Football Association as well, Mark Palios, who's been in conversation with myself. Well, look, Mark, it's great to have you here on the Added Time podcast. Really appreciate your time. And I just want to really start.
Good to chat with you again, Al.
Yeah, I just want to start with how are you and how's everything going with you?
Yeah, good. Busy. I'm 73, but actually, I was just saying to Nicky before, it doesn't feel like I should retire at all at this point in time. But no, so pretty busy, full time. Still working on the club full time, and various other business interests that I've got and Nicky has got. So yeah, it's good. Health's okay.
Say again.
Health's okay. It's
well, that's good.
Relative at this age.
That's good. Yeah, well, we all know how that feels. Yeah, I mean, with regards to the club, we'll talk about your career and and everything that's happened with you over the years. And regarding the club, though, I mean, obviously a good win this week. So how are things at the club now? Because there's been a lot of talk, obviously, in the past of takeovers and all that. So where are you at the moment with all that?
Yeah, I mean, Al, you know as well as anybody from your media career, I'm subject to a non-disclosure agreements and have been for 2 years now on various sort of attempts to deal with people who are interested in buying the club, and that's one of the big things that I think that one of the things I said when I first came to the club is that I recognised that amongst a few other things about being an owner of a club, it's like a relay race where you pick up the baton, but it's a relay race without a finishing tape. You hand it on, and you've just got to hand it on in a better field position than it was when you picked up the baton. Sure. And I think we've been in that position, and that's seen by the number of people who are interested in getting involved in the club and taking it forwards. And we only looked at taking it forwards to the extent of getting it into a position whereby somebody else could start to realize some of the potential that we think's around the club. So, that's ongoing. We're still very confident that there will be a transition to new ownership in the near future. But these things take time. Consortiums are complex things. It's not one individual that sort of comes along with a check and an idea. More importantly than the check, an idea as to how they're going to take the club forwards. So football clubs very often have a lot of tire kickers around the place, and you've always got to make sure it's the right person. So we're still hopeful that this will happen in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, we've got a club to run. So, we've got to look at the transfer window. We have to look at putting the squad together at the end of last season and putting in a new manager. And that's all done against the backdrop of the uncertainty as to who's going to be coming in and what's going to happen. And we really have, I think one of the things I am most pleased about, and throughout my career, I think one of the things I would say I've always done is I've built teams. And that comes a little bit about from playing a team sport all my life, but you build teams in business, and if you can build teams, it's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I think the team of people that we've got for a lower league club, and I don't mean that because it's very often harder to run a lower league club than it is to sit in. As you know, you've worked in Premier League clubs. There's masses of people, masses of resource, and you can do this and that. And whilst I think from the outside, a lot of it gets wasted. I'm very proud of the people that we've got at Tranmere, and the basis that they are really a good team, not just dedicated to the club and the concept, but actually technically very good. And I think as good as you'll find. And that's one of the difficulties in terms of me exiting or Nicky and I exiting. We want to make sure that the staff are properly looked after going forwards. And I think that's for two reasons. One, it's because the staff are good and they've done a lot in the past. And two, I think it's good for the club because, they are the best people to take the club forward.
Are you? I mean, is it putting you on the spot too much to say? Are you close to with somebody, or is it sort of
Alan, you've never been worried about putting me on the spot. So,
well, that's true.
No, we are close to seeing a close, as you call it, on a deal. And we have been in a period of exclusivity, and we have other parties who we've excluded, and we do the right thing. We don't talk to those parties if we're in exclusivity. So there are other people around as well, but at this point in time, yes, we are with one particular party. We are pretty close. We've got agreements in various things, but they've got to go through the officers and directors test at DFL, and whatever people may think of it, I think it's improved over the years. And we had an episode last year whereby one member of a consortium that we were ready to do a deal with was basically didn't pass the officers and directors test. And personally, I agree with the decision that was made by the EFL on that. I think they were entirely right. So, that has to, we can do so much in terms of looking at it, but at the end of the day, if people are, in this day and age, you can appear what you want to appear, basically. So I think that it's very important that they go through the officers and directors test and pass that. And I'm fairly confident the people that we're dealing with on this occasion will do that.
Will you miss it when it goes? It's been a difficult time, hasn't it, at times? But it's also been, I know what the club means to you and Nicola.
Well, I miss it. Everybody asks me that, but they also ask me what I'm going to do, and I'm not sure if it's nice to say I'm not. There's one of the things I always used to say and that was when I used to judge what I was doing in life and what I was, if I was fit. I was trying to keep fit as one of my things, and it was always I always wanted people to want me on their team. And because it's the day that you're against the school wall and you're last picked, that you fortunately I wasn't at schools, therefore I didn't grow up all bitter and twisted and determined to become a referee, as they say. But it's just one of those things that it's quite nice. A lot of people have asked me what I'm doing when I finish with the club. And the answer is that it may involve me staying around the club to help the transition in various areas that I can help, relationships with council, some of the projects that we've got going. And for people who are not, but I'll just put it this way, there's a lot of people who are looking at, for example, the recruitment side. And they'll come in and say, there's data and this and that. And the other. We use data, but we use it in a certain way, but these people are coming in and saying we're going to recruit totally on data. They'll get it wrong, because I think human intelligence as regards the market, certainly in the lower leagues, is massively important, because you're shopping in a small number of leagues, and you basically know the players in those leagues and so forth and so on. So it's helping people avoid making simple mistakes, because it looks quite, they see all this jargon in the press and they think they can come in and do that. I think you have to be a little bit more sophisticated and balanced. So it's in areas like that I'd like to think that people, if they have a deficit there, they would want me to hang around. But sorry, hang around's the wrong phrase. I've never hung around, but to be involved,
be around, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, football is it's an interesting business in as much that people say it's not a business, or it is a business. It just has different facets, and the extent of that is the jeopardy that you see within 90 minutes. You started off saying, well, we won last night and we won 3-0, but you're under no illusions that when you kick off on Saturday against one of my old teams, Crew, which I had a great 2.5 years there. You can't really predict what that result's going to be. And I have to say that people have come up to me and asked me what I think the score's going to be. consistently throughout my life. When I was running the FA and England games, in fact, that was, I think, the first conversation I had with Nikki. She said to me, "What do you think the score's going to be?" And you're tempted to turn around and say, "Well, how the hell do I know?" Because there's so much jeopardy in a game of football, the variables of this and that and the other. But people just want to know a score. So you say 2-1.
I think if we all knew the score of games, we wouldn't be doing the jobs we're doing.
Yeah.
We would be down at the bookmakers.
Well, that's what's quite interesting.
Maybe you wouldn't, if you know what I mean. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. You can't get involved in that sort of stuff. But what's quite interesting, what people don't know, is that all this data that's being used to select footballers and whatever has all come off the betting industry. And it's all around, because the primary reason for all of that was to assist people in making bets on football.
Yes.
And now it's been sort of hoofed into, clubs making decisions on players and so forth and so on.
Yeah. Data's the new data, isn't it? Listen, I want to take you back to, you mentioned Crewe, and obviously you played for Tranmere as well, and I want to just take you back at that time. What was it like, in your playing career? What was football like at that point for you?
It's very difficult to make comparisons without sort of me looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. But if you look at the pictures, there was a real honesty about football in those days, I think, and that's terrible for me to say that, still being involved in the game today, but I think there was. I mean, I don't think there was. When I went to the FA, people called it simulation, and I refused to accept that. I said it's cheating, and it just wasn't there. People were pretty straightforward. It was brutal. I mean, you don't get a face like this from sitting behind a desk for X years, but it was brutal. One of the quotes that probably summed up my career was when we played Arsenal at Highbury and we beat them 1-0. I was a university student and I was deputed to mark Alan Ball, and the Guardian the next day said Palios would have been booked inside a minute, except his tackle was so late. He was booked in 63 seconds. But that was de rigueur, the first one's for free. Well, it wasn't in that case, which I felt was unfair. But it was brutal, but in a strange way, it was honest. And things happened like, I think in 1977, 78, there was a team that was the same 11 players from the first day of the season until January, whatever. And I think it's a league record as well. It's something like 28 games, etc. And that was, you just don't see that now. You see them, making substitutions at 60 minutes and so forth and so on. But there was another factor in that as well, which I think goes towards, you asking what it was like. Of that 11, 10 of them were born within 5 miles of the ground, which is quite different to what it is today.
But, yeah.
Is that better? Is it worse? If you watch it technically the whole game has improved, and we did a lot about that at the FA. I think the FA has a lot of credit to take from that particular aspect, that we now have this whole production line of technically gifted players coming through. But when you played on pitches like that, technique wasn't necessarily the winner, as it were, because it was about fitness, it was about physicality. And even if you watch the Premier League in its early days, and I watched an Everton match fairly recently, and it's all about winning the second ball. It was all about contact and so forth. And so if you were better at contact, you won the game.
I always remember listening to Lou Macari. Actually, we used to have quite heated. Well, it wasn't heated debate with me, but it was heated debate with other people that I seemed to be in the conversation along with Lou. And Lou would always say that in his days, players had more stamina. They were in some respects fitter, maybe not as athletic and an athlete, but certainly from a stamina point of view, which would sort of go along with what you're saying, really. I think, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of how you measure it physiologically, but I think that the difference today is that virtually all players have pace or have reasonable pace. In my day, there was one or two, and I remember Alan King, who was the captain, who the club captain, who just gone to come and play in the 18 with us, and I was a school kid, about 16, and I was playing alongside Alan in the back four at the Oval. And we were playing one of these A teams in the Lancashire League, which incidentally was a great league. It's lots. So you played against Man United, Liverpool, Everton A teams, and all these stars who were coming through. You knew them. Anyway, this kid was a little kid, and he was just whizzing around in front of us. And Alan said to me, "Give him a reducer." Well, I was a 16-year-old kid from a grammar school, and I sort of half time we came in and Alan said, "I said give him a reducer," and I went, "What's a reducer?" He says, "Knee him in the thigh. He can't run with a limp." And that was all the coaching you got, to be quite honest. There was no coaching.
Enough of your data, the knee in the thigh,
His high intensity running was reduced dramatically.
Yeah, try and work that one out on your XG. One of the stories I remember you telling me a long time ago, and it was a great story, was about you, because your other obviously passion, I think, is, maybe I could call it, is accountancy, and
I respect anybody who has accountancy as a profession, so a passion, so I'd never say that.
Exactly. But it was, it was something you did very well. And you always remember you telling me that you were the players' accountant on the team bus, away games, and you'd sort their books out and things like that. I mean, what were you known as? Were you known as the clever clogs in the
Well, I would like to think not, in the sense that I was very much aware. I was a grammar school kid, and I played rugby at school, and I was a university graduate and stuff like that. So you actually worked to make sure that didn't show at all.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that really mattered was on a pitch on a Saturday. You'd put your head in where they wouldn't put their boots in, and maybe you overcompensated a little bit because they expected you, being a university student, to be soft. And in fact, that was one of the things that was an early problem in my game, and it's much that a lot of people used to wire me up. But I'm half Greek and Irish, so it's a fairly fiery combination.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that, do you?
So it was, and I say it was brutal. And if you played in the Sunday leagues of Merseyside, which I did from when I was 16 to when I was about 19, it was easy playing in the league, to be quite honest, compared to the brutality there. So, in terms of being a university student and then a chartered accountant, it became a problem because everybody thinks chartered accountant does tax. Well, tax was not my specialism, but when you're sitting on the coach, you'd find the guys who'd sidle up to you and say, "I've got this letter, it's a letter from the tax man."
Yeah.
And what had happened was the Inland Revenue had, as they do sometimes, they target industries.
Yes.
And they target high profile industries, to encourage or to use the profile of getting footballers, for example. And what they'd done is they'd sort of taken a picture of, I think it was a Liverpool team picture at the start of the season, and the guys had Adidas boots or whatever, Adidas boots I think it was, and they'd gone to Adidas and said, "Look, have you paid any of these guys sponsorship monies?" And then he went back to the lads' tax returns and said, "Well, you haven't declared this." So they were all in the middle of back duties and things like this. So my part-time job on the coach coming home was sorting out players' back duties cases.
Brilliant. And of course, when you finished your football career, did you manage that okay? Because there's a lot said, isn't there, about players finishing their careers and how they cope with that. I guess because of your education, if you like, that made it a little bit easier for you. Would that be fair?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think that what I would say was, actually, whilst I was playing, having the two jobs, because nobody else did, was probably the time in my life when it was most balanced. So I'd work during the week. I'd train every night. And you turn up on a Friday night, and you'd be driving out of the city, out of Liverpool, and you would be thinking, "Oh God, it's a nighttime game. The lads have been training 4 days a week, 2 hours a day. I've been working right the way through, and I've probably been studying for exams as well, and then training every night on my own. Couple of nights with the kids, but basically at the end of the week on a Friday night, you were quite shredded, and you're turning up. You're driving through the tunnel. You come out, and you get to the ground, and you're thinking, these guys who we're playing against have probably been in the hotel asleep this afternoon. They're going to come out, all up for it, having trained 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. But the thing was, once you got into the ground, you'd see the lads, and they'd say, "Oh, things like," and I always thought it was ironic. They would say things like, "It's been really boring this week, Mark, in training," and I'd say, "Okay," and then you get out, you get stripped off, you get on the pitch. It's sort of 7 o'clock-ish. A few people had come in from the gates there. The lights were on. You'd warm up, and suddenly I had a real advantage over the lads who were in the office, because they're still there working away, trying to climb up the greasy pole, and I've come out to play a game of football. So ironically, it washed my brain completely, and my weekend started there at 7 o'clock, and then you're on your way out at 7:30 in Kingies, slapping everybody on the chest as you're going out. But with me in particular, when I was going out, you used to slap me on the face and say, "If he comes off with half an ankle, you've done your job." I mean, that was the coaching that you got.
Yeah.
And, any set pieces and plays, they'd explain them, but you knew them, so you could pick them up quite easy. And then you finished the game, and it was almost like having a complete washout of any problems from the office, and it was a real balance. So when I finished, I turned down a 2-year contract with Exeter, which ironically would have had me playing for Exeter in that game against Tranmere. 2 years later, when they had to win to stay up.
Yeah.
But I turned down a 2-year contract. But the time then, Alan, was Heysel. It was 85, and I basically went to play for Bangor in the European Cup Winners' Cup, because I thought that was a nice way to finish. And all the English teams were banned because of Heysel. And so I got our firm to sponsor the shirt, and I think it won the best sponsorship deal, or the best advertising deal in that year in 85. And then I went down to Cambridge to become a partner in what was then Arthur Young's, now became Ernst Young, one of the big 8 at the time, one of the big 4 accountants, and turned down the Exeter deal. And so I immediately then flipped into putting all my energy into one career. And but I continued to play football. I did some coaching down there, and played in the Sunday League down there. I played in the Sunday League till I was 50 odd. So getting a double cardiac arrest on the way when I was 49. But so
it never leaves you, does it? Football.
No, and I think that, as I then moved around the country, what was really good was, I'd turn up and I'd play in the Sunday leagues in Cambridge, in Manchester, and whatever, and that then gave me access to a whole different range of people that I would have had access to if I just stayed as a chartered accountant, in the professions, with the lawyers and the dentists and the doctors. I was dealing with the chippies and the sparkies and stuff, and it was great. So I'd go to a new part of the country, and football is so universal. You were immediately accepted, whether it was in the fens of Cambridgeshire or on the Platt Fields in Manchester. And you made a network of friends and people who have stayed friends of mine to this day. So it was a fantastic way of getting embedded into every community wherever I went around the country.
Yeah, so it's fantastic experience, and fantastic, as you say, you go along and you pick up so many things from all these. Did you sort of do that job then until the FA job came up? Was that the, you didn't do it in the game in between that?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about, so this is terrible. It sounds like I really do have a passion for accountancy. Accountancy was the technical area, but there are so many areas within accountancy itself that it depends on what you do. And so I moved into the insolvency side and working on companies that had difficulties and so forth and so on, which meant that you weren't doing the same thing every day, and you were learning from looking at what people were doing and doing wrong. You're also doing it in an organization that helps to develop you, so it trains you as well. And I've got to say it that that the people that I work, the reason I left football in '85, it was at its nadir. I walked away from it to some extent. You had Heysel, you had hooliganism, you had very little cash in the game. It was the gates were poor, and it was just the wrong thing. And I shouldn't say it, but if you started to look at directors, you felt there were a lot of people in it for the wrong reasons. And when I looked at the office where I was working, these people were professional. They were all well motivated, good people. And I just thought, no, I'll move into that. And that was one of the main reasons that I made the transition and found it very, very easy. And one of the things, as I keep on saying about building teams, one of the big things in the big firms of accountants was exactly that it was about teamwork. It was about, the graveyard's full of indispensable men. So, you didn't feel it was just you. There was loads of people. And when I had my double cardiac arrests, and I literally was hooked out of the office just like that, and spent sort of 4 months out of the office, everything carried on. Because they had so many good people around, they could just fill in for you. And it doesn't make you concerned about your job. It makes you comfortable that you've got people who can carry on for you. And so the whole area of accountancy was in a strange way a little bit like football, which is when you get in a good dressing room and you've got a good group of lads. And I must have played through about 7 different generations of teams at Tranmere, and then also the lads at Crewe. The lads at Crewe were great. I had a great time with them there. I'd been on the opposite side to them for so many games. So when I first went in there, I remember Dennis Nelson, who was a really rough, tough Scot inside forward. He taught me in the first training session, and I thought,
yeah, that's
where everything I've done in the past. Yeah, he became a great mate. So it's those relationships that you used to build in football. I found you could build them just as easily in the profession. It's great.
And how did the FA job come about?
I guess I was headhunted. People who knew of me. Because in my time in the accountancy profession, I'd done insolvency, and I'd been working on the leadership team I've been headhunted into Coopers and Lybrand, who they were a great firm, and it's PricewaterhouseCoopers now, and they had the largest insolvency practice on the planet. I got involved with, so I was headhunted into them. I then was on the leadership team for them, and I basically developed and wrote the strategy. I remember saying to them when I went to them, sort of quite cheeky, I think you need a strategy. And they said, well, write one then. So I got involved in doing that. And coming from that, I decided that insolvency was something that we needed to move into the field of fixings. So instead of it going bust and dealing with it going bust, basically we started to deal with trying to stop them going bust.
Right.
And I developed that whole area for Coopers and Lybrand, and then ran it for PricewaterhouseCoopers once we merged with Pricewaterhouse. So in the city, that's what people knew I was doing. And the FA was bankrupt at the time, was bust, and they needed somebody to come in and fix it. So they thought, who better than a former professional footballer to do it, who's happens to have a background in the area that they needed. So that was that, really.
I mean, I guess you were walking into something. I've just realised they've said that we've got 10 minutes left on this.
Okay, so, sorry, I talk too much.
No, it's okay, not at all. No, it's been fascinating, honestly, Mark. But just on the job,
how did you walk? How did you feel when you walked into that job? I mean, was there lots to do? Did you feel was it a huge job to go to?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that I was struck by, I was a kid from Wavertree in Liverpool, and I'd been in Kerr, and when I was in Kerr, when I was moved over to Wallace, I was in Kerr briefly when I was a teenager, and I did two things when I got into Kerr. I actually got myself a paper round, and I've worked ever since and still am. And I got myself a football team. As I say, I played rugby at St Anselm, so I got myself a football team outside of school. 2 years later, I was playing for Tranmere. So it was like it was a fairly big journey from that to standing as the guy who was running football in England. Of the FA. It's got a capital T because it was the first FA, and it's the only one that can call itself the FA.
Yeah.
So that was I was aware of the magnitude of the job, and felt very privileged to be in there. The actual situation was that from a commercial aspect, it was what I used to do. So I managed to fix that, get Wembley financed, did stuff on terms of change the disciplinary system. We looked at the development of players. I went around Clairefontaine with Houllier, brought in Trevor Brooking. They put in place over the next few years. By 2007, they put in the full corner model, which became the basis of modern British coaching. 10 years later, we've got the under-17 world champions, the under-19 European champions, and the 20 world champions. But for all of that, the FA, what struck me between the eyes was that its time was very difficult because it's a Victorian institution, but it's trying to control a game that is now global, and it's a national institution. So, we couldn't stop agents. There's a story I tell about Alan Sugar ringing me up on the first day, but that's for another time. But when I looked at the agents problem, then we could say to Man United and Liverpool and whatever, you can only pay 5% to agents. But do I think the Spanish FA would do that to Real Madrid? And Real Madrid are shopping in the same market as our English clubs. So we only have an English jurisdiction. So whilst we had the perception that we were powerful, we didn't have that much power. And that was a difficulty. And it's a difficulty that's has continued to play out over the period since. We're seeing it now with, we have a football regulator, which I'm very in favour of, because the game can't regulate itself at this point in time. You've got a national organisation, but with players that are not football players, but clubs that are playing in global markets, and you can't control it from a national organisation. So that was a frustration. But no, some fabulous experiences in terms of, and a real privilege to have been in charge of that and getting Wembley built, which I only realised why I'd done it when years later Tranmere ended up 4 times in 5 years there, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, you must have known something, and of course, it was an incredible time. I remember, because I was working within the media, and I remember there was a story every other week. It felt it must have been like that for you in the job. And when that come to an end, because it was all a little bit unsavoury in the end, wasn't it? How do you feel about that? Do you have any sort of bitterness about that?
I don't have bitterness. I never look back in anger, as it were. If I had my time again, I wouldn't have resigned. But I was a single parent bringing up 4 of my 5 girls, who were aged 3 to 8 when I took them on, without a nanny. So, and that was the biggest and best job I ever did. And I just wasn't prepared to have my sort of private life on the front pages of the tabloids. So I walked away. I regret walking away. There was still stuff that I felt was needed to be done, but I did. And since that time, it's always been something that's rankled with me as to why I walked away. But it's difficult. You're a single bloke. I had a relationship with a PA there, and that seemed to be the big story because she had a relationship with Sven as well. But the reality is that thought she was single at the time, which I think she was, and I was single, and I'm bringing up 4 girls. And, you know, they were going back to school, and the last thing I want was to have stuff in the papers, you know, when they're going to school, because one of them was just starting as a teenager. But with hindsight, you know, everybody was fantastic. I was never abused by anybody in public, and so forth and so on. It was probably the wrong thing to do, to resign, but you know, you make mistakes.
I say you make mistakes. I mean, I've had a couple of instances in not similar to that, but in the fact that I've walked away from jobs that I really loved and felt I could do a lot more. But I think principles mean everything, don't they? And but they also cost, don't they?
Yeah, I'm only laughing because, you know, I got my job as a paper round, and I went in one morning. I was late because I had the flu, and it was pouring with rain. And the guy said to me, you know, "You're late." And I said, "Actually, you're lucky that I came in. I've got the flu and stuff." And he said, "Well, you know, how to go up, mate." So I took the bag off and threw it across the thing and said, "Well, deliver them yourself," and I walked out. And that was just a 14-year-old kid. So
the signs were there, Mark.
Yeah, well, in fact, I'd done it once before when I was with I shouldn't say it really, but I did walk out of a job when I felt, in fact, twice, when I felt that they had just completely misunderstood. When I was, for example, an accountant and a player, you know, in terms of a promotion and a rise one day, they hadn't paid for my exams when they were paying for other guys' exams. And I said, "Well, why is that?" And they said, "Well, because you've got 2 jobs." I said, "Yeah, but I do 2 jobs."
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, I then went to a different firm of accountants, a large firm of accountants. So I have a track record of saying, "Well, if that's it, no, sod it, I'm off."
Well, listen, Mark, we're out of time. There's 2 minutes left, but do you know what? We could talk for another hour. I mean, it'd be great to do another one of these because it was just fascinating. It's been when you look back in the last 2 minutes we have, when you look back on your time over the whole career, what has been the most enjoyable and biggest achievement? Does Tranmere sit highly up there, you know, with owning the club? And
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, standing at the stadium with England and the national anthem playing, and in 2004 in the European Championships and all the crosses of St. George was the hairs on the back of the neck moment. But I would say my best moment in the game was the Boreham Wood match at Wembley, and we won, you know, with 10 men from the first minute. And that to me is still the most significant sort of day in my career in football.
I think proof as well, or confirmation, that football is a little bit more exciting than accountancy, probably, as well. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time, and like I say, we will do this again, I'm sure, when you're over, and come and see you maybe at Tranmere. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan.
Well, there we go. That's Mark Palios. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Very interesting character, Mark, and good luck to him with Tranmere Rovers going forward. But as far as the competition is concerned, of course, we've got the great competition running where you can join myself and Tony at the Hill Dickinson Stadium on January the 7th. You've got maybe a couple of hours left, really, to get your subscription in. And that's all you have to do is subscribe and like to the Added Time podcast, and you'll be in a chance. So good luck on that, and we'll see you next time on the Added Time podcast.